So in this video, we're going to have a look at some stretching, specifically using dynamic contractions and then trying to stay nice and active in the actual stretch itself. So it's going to feel a little bit like passive stretching, but we want to make sure we're super aware of how to keep the muscles working a little bit to support the stretch, to support the joints and connective tissue, and to help the body just feel comfortable and safe in these stretches. We are going to start with something called upper thoracic extension. So this works on getting into the upper back and helping with extension, but it also works shoulder flexion because our arms are going to be overhead. So it's a really nice combination of those two movements of the body. You are going to need something like a bench, or you can use yoga blocks to rest your arms against them. I'm going to use my bench just because it's a good height for this. So what I want ideally is to have my hands at the same height as my hips and shoulders. So if I'm in a kneeling position, this bench is the right height. If you were standing up, you could maybe place your hands against the wall. And I'm going to have my hands shoulder width apart, palms down on the bench, and then I'm going to shuffle back until I'm in an overhead position. So from here, I want to make sure that I'm not arching through my spine to compensate. So I'm going to hollow from my core, flattening out my back so I can just focus on the shoulder blades and up. I'm going to push my hands against the bench or the props, and I'm going to actively keep my shoulders elevated. And then from here, we're going to push the chest to the floor 10 times, and this is our dynamic contraction. So staying nice and active through the chest and shoulders. You might feel this in your upper back. You might feel it more in the front of your chest or in your shoulders. It depends where you're tight. So we'll do 2 more here. And then we're just going to hold the stretch, so a comfortable position, and we're going to stay here for 30 seconds. And then gently coming up and out of the stretch. And then you can just give yourself a little bit of a hug if you need to. So I am going to be taking you through 1 round of every stretch, but what I would say is if it feels like it's helpful to do 2 rounds, you can absolutely repeat this after you've gone through the first round. So we just worked on our shoulder flexion. We're going to have a look at extension using a stretch called the lounge chair. So I'm simply sitting on my bum with my feet out in front of me, and then I have my arms behind me. Now, ideally, I want my hands shoulder width apart, but if you're a bit tight in the chest, they might be a little bit wider. One thing I will say about this stretch is you can choose whether you do it with straight arms or bent arms. So for those of you like me with hyperextending elbows, sometimes locking out the arms in this position can feel a bit intense. So I'm probably going to keep a small bend in my elbows so that my joints feel a bit more comfortable, but you can choose what gives you the best stretch. So I am going to shuffle my hips forwards until I feel a really good stretch through the chest and the front of my shoulders. And then from here, the dynamic contraction is pushing the ground away as I move the chest up and then down. So I'm trying to lift the chest forwards and then back down. And we're going to do 10 of these. And then once you've done 10, we're just going to hold the stretch. So really trying to push the chest forwards, staying nice and active through the arms. Last 10 seconds here. And relax. Okay, and again, if you need to, you can give yourself a little hug, give your arms and shoulders a little bit of a wiggle. So the next stretch we're going to look at is called the L-arm stretch. And so this works the back of the shoulder and a little bit into the shoulder blade, maybe top of the lat if you're feeling tight there. We're actually going to do this one on the floor. So I'm going to lie with my arm across my body. Some people find it more comfortable with the arm at a 45-degree angle. So you can play with where you put the arm. So I like to have it at a 45-degree angle. And then the other arm just rests on top. So I have my palm down for the arm that's being stretched. And I don't want to be lying on the shoulder. I want to have my body square to the ground. So from here, the dynamic contraction is pushing the elbow into the floor and pulling the shoulder back and then relaxing. So it kind of lifts me up a little bit and then I relax back down. So we're going to do 10 of these. The rest of my body just stays nice and relaxed. And then we're going to hold each side for 30 seconds. And then bringing the arm out, swapping to the other side. So I've now got my left arm underneath. I've got it at 45 degrees so that it's a little bit more comfortable. And then I'm going to push the elbow into the ground, pull the shoulder back, and then relax as I move in and out of the dynamic contractions. And then I'm just going to hold the stretch for 30 seconds on this arm. Ten more seconds. And relax. And then we can come back out of this. Cool. So the very last stretch we're going to look at, which also works on shoulder extension, is something called clasped hands extension stretch. So I'm going to have my hands clasped together behind my back. So I'm going to do this here. And then I want to be able to straighten my arms and stretch from here. If you can't reach your arms behind your back, you can use either a resistance band or something like a tea towel, and then just hold it behind and you can create that same narrow effect with the hands, but obviously they're not together, so you're going to have a little bit more movement for the stretch itself. So you can do this sitting on a chair, standing up, or kneeling. We are going to clasp the hands together, lean forwards and lift the arms up. So the dynamic contraction is going to be moving into deeper extension like this. And I'm also trying to squeeze the shoulder blades together to help with this. So we're gonna go for 10. And I'm just leaning forwards to help lift the arms up. And then we're gonna hold the stretch for 30 seconds. So throughout, I'm really trying to think about lifting the hands up and not letting them come back down. And just so that you can see, if we were doing this from standing, if you've got a nice forward fold, you can use your forward fold, flexibility, and let gravity help pull the hands down as well. So that's just a more intense version of the stretch if you want to bring the whole body into play, or you want to feel gravity helping to pull the arms more. So like I said, we've got 4 stretches here that really work on stretching the shoulders in positions where we actually need to be strong and mobile. You can do 1 single round of these and then you can call it a day. You can do a couple of rounds or even 3. We were just doing 30 seconds for the stretch, but if you want to hold the stretches for longer, you can also do that. So I would say maybe 60 to 90 seconds if you're feeling like it's giving you a really good stretch and you've got the strength and control to stay active for that length of time.